Shalom, shalom. Hey, I just wanted
Shalom.
shalom, shalom. Hey, I just wanted to do a quick video or short video with Feast of Unleavened Bread coming up next month on I believe it's on what is it on the 16th of April on the
Yes, the
Gregorian
16th.
calendar.
Gregorian
16th,
calendar.
16th of April on the Gregorian calendar. On the lunar calendar, we know that it's the 15th day of the biblical month. So I just wanted to do a quick video on this and basically just bring out some understanding on Psalms 81 verse 3 in particular, as well as the entire chapter, because it's the assumption that Psalms 81 verse 3 is telling us to blow up the trumpet in the new moon, and it's also stating that the new moon is the full moon. So I just want to go through the scriptures and show that this chapter is telling us to blow up the trumpet at two specific times. First and foremost, it's telling us to blow up the trumpet at the actual new moon, which is the beginning of the month, and it's also telling us at a specific month that is telling us to do it in. And then the second thing is it's telling us to blow up the trumpet on a specific day at a specific time. And finally, it's telling us to blow it up on a specific feast day. So I just want to go into the scriptures and show exactly what the scriptures is talking about. And we're going to try to bring some edification, especially for the fact that, like I said, Feast of Unleavened Bread is coming up next month. I know we have some people that I've seen a couple of people that are partaking of Feast of Unleavened Bread now, but we're going to deal with the fact that we're going from the lunar year starts, the actual new moon is, was that Saturday, April 2nd, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go take it from that perspective of the new moon coming from that point. So we're going to go into Psalms 81. We'll start at verse 1.
Psalms chapter 81, verse 1. Sing loud unto Yahweh our strength. Make a joyful noise unto Yahweh of Jacob. Take a psalm and bring hither the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the psalter. Verse 3. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day.
So verse 3 is the verse that we're going to concentrate on. It says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on our solemn feast day. So first what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Strong's Concordance to the Hebrew, and we're going to break down and get the definition of three things from this one verse. We're going to get the definition for new moon, we're going to get the definition for time appointed, and we're going to get the definition for the solemn feast. Because you see right here, it says feast day. It doesn't say feast as in plural. It's talking about, it's singular. So it's talking about one specific feast day. And we know all of the feast days are listed in Leviticus 23. So we're going to deal with that. So hey, can you give me the definition for the new moon?
New moon, that's Hebrews 23:20, Kodesh. And is it Kodesh, new moon, a month.
So new moon means, it's Strong's Concordance 2320. It means new moon or new month or months plural, right? So that's what new moon is meaning in the Strong's Concordance in the Hebrew. Let me get the time appointed.
Time appointed is Hebrews 36:77, it's Kish, and that means full moon.
So time appointed in the Strong's Concordance is 36, what did you say, 3677?
36:77.
Keys, which means full moon. And then lastly, to get the Strong's Concordance for the word solemn.
Solemn, that's Hebrews 22:82, and that's Chag, a festival gathering, feast, pilgrimage, or pilgrim feast.
Pilgrim feast. So we're gonna come back to that. I just want to show this right here. See this. Hope you can see this.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that out?
Yeah, I can see that.
So it's showing Strong's Concordance 2320 Kodesh, which means new moon or new month, and 3677 Kis, which means full moon. And that's the time appointed. And last but not least is 2289, which means it says festival, and it's talking about, would you say, read that, the definition for festival again?
The festival, gathering, feast, pilgrim feast.
Pilgrim feast. So like I said, this is talking about a specific feast, right? And it's talking about, so really this verse here, blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on a solemn feast day. So when we put in the words for the Strong's Concordance, which is the definitions of each word, it's actually saying, blow up the trumpet in the new moon, which is the beginning of the month, and also at the full moon on a specific feast day. Right? So we, like I said, all of the feast days are listed in Leviticus 23. So during, it says, a key thing is said for, read the definition for feast again.
Feast is Hebrews 36:77, which is, no, I'm sorry, Hebrews 22:82, which is Chab. That means a festival gathering, feast, pilgrim feast.
Okay, so we're going to prove that the full moon happens on the 15th day of the month, right? So we're going to go into, like I said, Leviticus 23 outlines all of the feast days. So let's go over there, Leviticus 23, and we're going to see what feast days are on the 15th day of the month. We're going to start, give me Leviticus 23 and verse 34.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 34. And it reads, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of this 7th month shall be the feast of tabernacles for 7 days unto Yahweh.
So this is one of the feasts that happens on the 15th day, like I said, is the full moon. The other one is, give me verse 5, verse 6 rather.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 5 says, in the 14th day of the first month.
Verse 6, verse 6.
Of Salakia. Leviticus 23, verse 6. On the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahweh. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread.
Read it.
Keep reading.
Uh-huh.
Verse 7, in the first day ye shall have a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein. But ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. In the 7th day, it is a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein.
Okay. All right. So again, when he read the definition for festival, for a solemn feast, read that one more time.
For a solemn feast is a festival gathering, feast, pilgrim feast.
Pilgrim feast, that's a key thing. So we just went into Leviticus 23 and we found that there's 2 feast days that happen on the 15th day of the month, which we're going to show happens under a full moon. The first one we read was Feast of Tabernacles, which that's in the 7th month. This one that we just read was Feast of Unleavened Bread, which happens in the 1st month, which is the month of Abib. And the definition for that festival is, it said a pilgrim feast. So what feast is a pilgrim feast? Because that's a key thing. So give me Deuteronomy 16:16. Let's find out. And matter of fact, give me Deuteronomy 16:16, but then give me the definition first for pilgrimage.
Deuteronomy 16:16.
Give me the definition first.
Okay, the definition for pilgrimage. Okay, a pilgrimage, the noun, a pilgrim's journey.
A pilgrim's journey. So it said for a festival or for solemn feast, talking about a specific feast, it said a pilgrim's journey. So that means, read the definition again.
Pilgrimage, a pilgrim's journey.
A journey. So give me Deuteronomy 16:16.
Deuteronomy 16:16. And read, 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before Yahweh thy Elohim in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles. And they shall not appear before Yahweh empty.
So both of these feasts, Feast of Unleavened Bread, as well as Feast of Tabernacles, are pilgrim feasts, right? But one is in the first month and one is in the seventh month. So we got to go back to Psalms 81 and find out what feast is talking about, because both of these are pilgrim feasts, meaning that one time in a year that they had to go up to Jerusalem to go ahead and do these feasts. So it says both of these are pilgrim feasts because they had to go up one time, 3 times in a year to go do the feast, right? Let's go back to Psalms 81.
Verse 3.
Start at 1 again, and we're gonna read it in context. We're gonna go down.
Okay, Psalms chapter 81, verse 1. Sing aloud unto Yahweh our strength. Make a joyful noise unto the Elohim of Jacob. Take a psalm and bring hither the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the psaltery. Verse 3. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day.
So blow up the trumpet in the new moon, which is the beginning of the month or the first day of the month. And it's also telling us to blow it up at the full moon, time appointed, on a specific feast day. Verse 4.
Verse 4. For this was a statute for Israel and a law of the Elohim of Jacob. This he ordained in Joseph.
So it says, verse 4 says, for this was a statute for Israel and the law of the Elohim of Jacob. So the word statute here also means, it means statute, it means ordinance, or it means law. So let's find out what this ordinance or this law is concerning Israel that Jacob knew about. So give me Exodus 12 and verse 15. We're gonna go 15 through 17. We're gonna come right back here. Exodus 12. You froze up. Bad signal. You good, Art?
Yeah, I'm good.
I guess we had a bad signal. So we're gonna recap that right there. Verse 4 in Psalms 81, verse 4.
Psalms chapter 81, verse 4. For this was a statute for Israel and a law of the Elohim of Jacob.
So we said we're gonna find out what the word statute, it means law or ordinance. So we're gonna find out what statute, what law, what ordinance this is that Jacob said that he testified of. So give me Exodus 12, verse 15 through 17.
Okay, Exodus chapter 12, verse 15. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leavening out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the seventh, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And in the first day there shall be an holy convocation, and in the seventh day there shall be an holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. Verse 17. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall ye observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever.
By an ordinance or statute or law. So this is clearly talking about Feast of Unleavened Bread. So go back to Psalms 81. I'm gonna get this precept here because it's talking about unleavened bread, right? So Leviticus 23 and verse 5, it says the first day, it says in verse 6, and on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto Yahweh. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. So clearly this feast that we're talking about right here is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which happens on the 15th day of the month, which we said is under a full moon, which is the time appointed, right? Go back to Psalms 81, pick it up at verse 5.
Psalms 81, verse 5. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not.
Read verse 5 again.
Psalms chapter 81, verse 5. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not.
Verse 6.
Verse 6. I removed his shoulder from the burden, his hands were delivered from the post.
So it said, I removed his shoulders from the burdens, his hands were delivered from the post. So what are the burdens that Israel was delivered from? Let's get that out.
His hands were delivered from the pots, not posts, from the pots.
From the pot. Okay, so what are the burdens that Israel was delivered from, right? Let's get Exodus 1, verse 13 and 14. See what the burdens were that they were delivered from. Because we're trying to prove if this is actually talking about Feast of Unleavened Bread or if it's talking about Feast of Tabernacles. Both were a pilgrim journey, which they went up 3 times in a year, as Deuteronomy 16 said. Exodus chapter 1, verse 13 and 14.
Exodus chapter 1, verse 13 and 14. And it reads, and the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor.
So the burdens that Israel was under was that they were in captivity, in slavery under the Egyptians, right? Let me get Exodus 6 and verse 6.
Exodus 6, verse 6. Exodus chapter 6, verse 6. Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am Yahweh, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments.
So again, the burdens that Israel was under is that they were enslaved by the Egyptians. And it says right here, the Most High say he was going to deliver them out of their burdens from the bondage of Israel, right? Of the Egyptians. Go back to Psalms 81.
Psalms chapter 81.
Verse 7.
Verse 7. Thou callest in trouble, and I delivered thee. I answered thee in the secret place of thunder. I proved thee at the waters of Meribah. Salah.
So verse 7 says, thou callest in trouble, and I delivered thee. I answered thee in the secret place of thunder. I proved thee at the waters of Meribah. Salah. So let's see when Israel called out to the Most High because of the bondage. Give me Exodus 2, and we'll pick it up at the 23rd and 24th verse.
Exodus 2.
Verse 23 and 24.
Exodus chapter 2, verse 23 and 24. And it came to pass in process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried, and their cry came up unto Elohim by reason of their bondage. And Elohim heard their groanings, and Elohim remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob.
So verse 23 says, and it came to pass in the progress of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of bondage, and they cried, or they called out, and their cry came up to Yahweh by reason of their bondage. So Them calling out was because of the bondage, because of the burdens that they were under, because of the Egyptians. So it says that they cried out or they called out, like it says in Psalms 81, right? Let's get Numbers 20 and verse 13. Get another precept, precept upon precept.
Numbers chapter 20, verse 13. This is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with Yahweh, and he was sanctified in them. And Moses sent messengers from Kadesh unto the king of Edom, thus saith thy brother Israel, thou knowest all the travail that hath befallen us.
Keep reading.
Verse 15, how our fathers went down into Egypt, and we have dwelt in Egypt a long time, and the Egyptians vexed us and our fathers. And when we cried unto Yahweh, he heard our voice and sent an angel and hath brought us forth out of Egypt. And behold, we are in Kadesh, a city in the uttermost of thy border.
So again, verse 16 says, and when they cried out, or when they called out to the Most High, that he heard their voice, and he sent an angel and brought us forth out of the land of Egypt, from under the burdens, which is the bondage of slavery. So it's saying he brought them out at a specific time when they called out or they cried out. Let's go back to Psalms 81. We're going to find out when exactly they cried out and when he took them and delivered them out of Egypt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Verse, pick it up at read verse 7 again, huh?
Psalms chapter 81, verse 7. Thou callest in trouble, and I delivered thee. I answered thee in the secret place of thunder. I proved thee at the waters of Meribah. Salah. Hear, O my people, and I will testify unto thee, O Israel, if thou wilt hearken unto me. There shall no strange God be in thee, neither shalt thou worship any strange God. I am Yahweh thy Elohim, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it. Keep reading.
No, so verse 10 says, I am Yahweh thy Elohim, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. So it's saying he brought them out again. This is about the second or the third time that we read that he brought them out of the land of Egypt from under the bondage, which was the burdens that they were under at the hands of the Egyptians. And he said, I opened thy mouth wide and I will fill it. Read verse 5 again, huh?
Psalm 81, verse 5. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not.
So it says he ordained this in Joseph. So he told Joseph that this was going to happen. And he told Joseph that he was going to deliver them out of Egypt, right? Let's get that. Genesis 50. We'll see where he told Joseph that this was going to happen and that he would deliver them one day out of Egypt, out of the hands, out of the bondage that they were under. Verse 24.
Genesis 50, verse 24. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I die, and Elohim will surely visit you and bring you out of this land unto the land which he swore to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob.
So he said, he told them, he said that the Most High is gonna deliver you out of this land. But he said, I'm not gonna live to see it. He said, I'm gonna die. But he told them that this day would come. So they would be delivered out of the bondage of the Egyptians, right? Go back to verse 10, Psalms 81, verse 10.
Psalms 81, verse 10. I am Yahweh thy Elohim, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it.
So,
verse 11.
So let's see when they brought them out of the land of Egypt. Give me Exodus 12 and go to verse 41. Let's start at verse 41 and 42. We need to find out, we need to find out exactly when he brought them out, because we keep hearing that he's going to bring them out. Joseph told them about it before he died, that he was going to bring them out. We read it several times that he was going to bring them out from under the hand of bondage, or he brought them out at a specific time. So we need to narrow it down to find out what is this day and what is this feast day or this pilgrim feast that he delivered them out of the hand of bondage, right? Exodus 12, verse 41 and 42.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 41. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day it came to pass, that all the hosts of Yahweh went out from the land of Egypt. 42. It is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh for bringing them out of the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations.
So it's saying that this is the night to be much observed, and this is the night that Yahweh to be observed in all the children of Israel's generations. So he brought them out a specific night. He brought them out on a specific day, right? Let me verse 51.
Exodus 12 and verse 51. And it came to pass the self same day that Yahweh did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies.
So it's talking about the self same day that he brought them out of the land of Egypt, right? Exodus 13, give me verse 3 and 4.
Exodus 13, verse 3 and 4. And Moses said unto the people, remember this day in which ye came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by strength of hand, Yahweh brought you out from this place. There shall no leaven be eaten. This day ye came out in the month of Abib.
Or in the month of Abib. So we said we was going to narrow it down to find out when they came out. So it just said that they came out in the month of Abib. So if they came out in the month of Abib, then that would have to exclude the Feast of Tabernacles, which is also a pilgrim feast, because it said he brought them out in the month of Abib. So we know there's two feasts according to Leviticus 23 that happened on the 15th day of the month, right? The first one we read was Leviticus 23 and verse 34 was the Feast of Tabernacles. The second one we read was the Leviticus 23 verse 6 was the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So it just said, read that part right there again where it's excluded tabernacles.
You start at verse 3?
Yeah.
Okay, Exodus 13, verse 3. And Moses said unto the people, remember this day in which ye came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by strength of hand Yahweh brought you out from this place. There shall no leavened bread be eaten. Verse 4, this day came ye out in the month of Abib.
So they came out, we know that we're narrowing it down. They came out in the month of Abib. We just said that excludes the Feast of Tabernacles because that's the 7th month. We know that the month of Abib is the 1st month. So it's telling you right here that they came out in the month of Abib, right? So let's go back to Psalms 81 verse 3 again, because I want to give a precept for this time appointed so we can narrow it down even closer to what they were talking about and prove that it's talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Psalm chapter 81 verse 3 it says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on our solemn feast day.
So in the time appointed is the full moon. We said that this feast day, Feast of Unleavened Bread, is the 15th day of the month, which is a full moon. And let's give me Exodus 23 and verse 15, so we can see exactly what it says this time appointed is.
Exodus chapter 23, verse 15. He says, thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month Abib. For in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty.
Read it again, because it said 3 key things. It said the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It said it referred to the Feast of Unleavened Bread as the time appointed. And then it said they came out in the month of Abib. So read that again.
Exodus chapter 23, verse 15. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month Abib. For in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty.
So let's see when they came out. Give me Numbers 33 and verse 3, because it's talking about a specific time, a specific day, and a specific night. So Numbers 33 and verse 3, because it referred to the Feast of Unleavened Bread as the time appointed. And we know the time appointed said the 15th, said that it was the full moon. That was Keys, 3677 was Keys, right? Go ahead.
Yes.
Hold on,
Numbers 33.
let me do this real quick before we even get to when they actually came out. Give me Sirach 43 and verse 6 and 7.
Chapter 43, verse 6 and 7. He made the moon also to serve in her seasons for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. From the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection.
Okay, so and give me Sirach 39 verse 12, so we can see what the perfection of the moon is right here.
Sirach chapter 39, verse 12. Yet have I more to say, which I have thought upon, for I am filled as the moon at the full.
So the perfection of the moon is the fullness of the moon. And Sirach 43 verse 6 says he made the moon also to serve in her season. That word season there is Strong's Concordance 4150 Moedim, which means appointed times. It says for a declaration or an announcement of times and a sign of the world. So then the next verse says, from the moon is a sign of feast, a light that decreases in its perfection. So the perfection of the moon is the fullness of the moon, right? So let's go back. Like I said, they came out on a specific feast day, which we saw it was unleavened bread, and it referred to it as the time appointed, meaning a full moon, right? So let's see the day that they came out to prove that this time appointed, which is the full moon, is the 15th day of the month of Abib, like the scripture said. Give me Numbers 33 and verse 3.
Numbers chapter 33, verse 3. And it reads, and they departed from Ramses in the first month on the 15th day of the first month. On the morrow after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians.
So right here is saying that they departed Ramesses or Egypt in the first month, which is the month of Abib, on the 15th day, which is the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the appointed time, right? Which is under a full moon on the first month. And it says on the morrow after the Passover. The Passover is the 14th day of the same month of Abib. But it says that they left out of Egypt on the morrow after the Passover. The children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians. So we read in Exodus 12 that it was a night to remember. So this is proven right here. First of all, go back to Psalms 81 and verse 3.
Psalms 81, verse 3 says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day.
So it's saying, like I said from the beginning, it's telling us to blow up the trumpet at 2 specific times. It's telling us first and foremost to blow it up at the new moon, which is the beginning of the month, which is 2320 Kodesh, right? Then it's telling us to blow it up again at the time appointed, which we went into the Strong's Concordance, that's at the full moon on a specific feast. We went precept upon precept, And we found that all of the precepts here that we're talking about in this chapter, Psalms 81, is talking about Feast of Unleavened Bread. So it's not telling us to blow up the trumpet at the new moon, and it's not calling the new moon the full moon. It's telling us to blow up the trumpet 2 different times. We blow up the trumpet new moon day, which is the first day of every month. We blow the trumpet. We're also instructed to blow the trumpet on every feast day. Give me Numbers 10:10.
Numbers chapter 10, verse 10. And it reads, also in the day of your gladness and in your solemn days and in the beginnings of your months.
In the what?
Ye shall, in the beginnings.
In the beginning or the starting point of the month, right? Which is new moon day. Go ahead.
Of your months, ye shall blow with trumpets over your burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial or for your Elohim. I am Yahweh, your Elohim.
Okay, so let's do this too. Before we close out, let's prove that the crescent is the new moon. Give me that Enoch 77:14.
Enoch 77 and verse 14. And when it is wholly extinguished, its light is consumed in heaven. And on the first day, it is called the new moon. For on that day, light is received into it.
So it said, and when the moon, when it's wholly extinguished, when you say extinguished, that's like if you have a fire extinguisher in your house. When you use a fire extinguisher, you're putting out the fire, which means the fire is completely gone, right? Give me Enoch 78, verse 12, Art.
Enoch 78, verse 12, and it reads, and on the side on which the light of the moon appears, there again it wanes until all its light disappears, dark, and the days of the moon end, and its disk remains empty without light.
So it says on the side of the moon, which the light of the moon appears, there again wanes. The word wanes means decreases, just like it said in Sirach 43, verse 7. It says a light that decreases means it's decreasing, meaning it's going away. So it's talking about here, this is talking about going to the dark moon. So it says on the side on which the light of the moon appears, there again it wanes until the light disappears, meaning it's gone, it's extinguished. You can't see anything, right? So it's telling you that right there. So it says, and when this happens, it says, the days of the moon end, and his disk remains empty without light. So that is excluding the dark moon as being the new moon, because it says when the days of the moon end, when the light is gone. So there's nothing there. That is the last day of the lunar month, right? Give me Enoch 73 and verse 5. Right? Well, give me Enoch 77 and verse 14 again, because I want to make a point from that.
Okay, Enoch 77, verse 14. And when it is wholly extinguished, its light is consumed in heaven. And on the first day, it is called the new moon. For on that day, light is received into it.
Give me Enoch 73 and verse 5.
Enoch 73, verse 5. At that time, it appears and becomes to you the beginning of the month, 30 days with the sun in the gate from which the sun goes forth.
So the Enoch 77:14 says, and when it's wholly extinguished, we already concluded that that means it's completely gone. It goes on to say its light is consumed in heaven. And on the first day, it is called the new moon, for on that day, light is received into it, meaning that you physically see light come back into it. When you see the light coming back into it, Enoch 73 verse 5 says, at the time that it appears, meaning the time that you see the first light, which is the crescent, it says it becomes to you the beginning of months, 30 days with the sun in the gate, which the sun goes forth. Give me Sirach 43 and verse 8, because we're going to prove this is talking about the crescent is the actual new moon of the Bible. Go ahead.
Sirach 43 and verse 8. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven.
So it says the month is called after her name, increasing or waxing, wonderfully in her changing. The changing of the moon is the phases of the moon. From the first light, which is a crescent, like it said in Enoch, it appears to you the beginning of the month. So it says the changing being an instrument of armies above, shining or visible in the firmament of heaven. So it's telling you the dark moon, when the dark moon comes, it's the end of the month. When you see the first crescent, the first light, that is the beginning of months to you. From that point, that moon increases. As it increases, the month is going. And I want to show you, see if you can see this on my phone. See if you can see this. Now this is the, make sure I'm going the right way. Okay, this is the app that I use. So this is the dark moon. You can see this. So it says, when you see the dark moon, that's the end of the month. That's the last day of the month. It said, when you see the crescent, which is the first light, that shall be the beginning of months to you, the starting point. So that is the first day numerically of the month, right? So let's see when we get to 15, what phase, because it says the changing. What did it say? Read verse 8 again,
Sirach 43, verse 8. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven.
So from the crescent, it has no choice but to increase, and her changing is the phases of the moon. So this would be numerically the first day of the month, the first day. So we're going to go to the 15th day and see where it increases to and what is the phase that it's on, right? So let me make sure I'm going the right way. So I said new moon day is going to be April 2nd. I don't know if you can see this on here, but that's the first day. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Right there, 15 days from the new moon, which is the beginning of the month, is a full moon. That's right in line with Sirach 43 and verse 7. From the moon is a sign of feast, a light that decreases in its perfection. That is the full moon. According to the perfection of the moon is the fullness of the moon. So you can see on here, we started from the crescent, which is the first light, a light that increases. 15 days in, you have a full moon. So this proves right here, like Psalms 81 verse 3 is telling us to blow up the trumpet in the new moon, which would be the crescent, the beginning of the month. And it's also telling us again that we blow it up again at the full moon, which is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the 15th day of the month. That is the solemn feast or the pilgrim feast, according to Deuteronomy 16 and 16. So I just wanted to give some understanding on that. And give me Isaiah 28 and verse 10 real quick.
Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 10. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little.
So precept upon precept, we went from Psalms 81 and we went from those precepts there, we went to the precept to prove the point of what exactly Psalms 81 was talking about. We went line upon line, line upon line. We went here a little, there a little, right? Give me Psalms 119, 104.
Psalms 119 and 104 reads, through thy precepts I get understanding, therefore I hate every false way.
So through thy precepts, we get understanding. So as we went precept upon precept, line upon line upon line, here a little, there a little, we got the understanding of exactly what Psalms 81 is talking about. It is not telling us to blow up the trumpet at the new moon, calling the full moon the new moon. It's telling us to blow it up at two specific times in the month of Abib, at the beginning of the month, which is new moon day, and at the 15th day, which is the second Sabbath on the lunar calendar, which is the full moon. So every time if you're keeping either the Feast of Tabernacles or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the confirmation that you are keeping it at the right time is when you look up that night. If you see a full moon, you are right on point with the scriptures that it says, because the 15th day of every month, whether it's a solemn feast or whether it's a weekly Sabbath, is a full moon. So that's according to scripture. So I just wanted to kind of bring some understanding this, because like I said, we have Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Passover coming up next month. And so this is just a little understanding, is that, like I said, the dates on the Gregorian calendar is what, the 16th for the
Unleavened bread.
That's unleavened bread is the 16th?
That's unleavened, yes.
Unleavened bread is the 16th. So on the 16th on the Gregorian calendar, on the 16th, which it happens to fall on a Saturday for next month, when you look up that evening on the 16th, the confirmation that we are on the right day as far as the scriptures are concerned, just like it said in Sirach 43 and verse 6, he made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration or announcement of times and a sign of the world. So the sign of the world on the 16th of April is going to be that this is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and it's going to be confirmed with a full moon in the firmament. So I just wanted to kind of just go through Psalms 81 and give some understanding on it. And hopefully somebody got edified by it, and just take a second look at what we've been doing. Like I said before on previous videos, I wasn't sure what the new moon was. I blew up the trumpet on the crescent, and I also blew it up on the full moon because I wasn't sure until I went into the scriptures and I searched the scriptures and I found that it was so. And I went through Psalms 81 verse 3, and I was just asking myself, what is the statute? What are the burdens? What is this? And I just looked and found the scriptures, and it's precept upon precept, and it's in the Bible. And it tells you they cried out, they called out. The burdens that they were under was the fact that they were in slavery under the Egyptians. And it's in the scripture. And I know what we've been taught, a lot of things we've been taught. And we have to go back and search the scriptures to see if it's so. Like the Bereans, they search the scriptures daily to see if it was so. And it's no indictment on anybody. Like I said before, we grow in it, and back.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, I don't know if I guess we're still on the same one. My internet went down. But like I said, there's no indictment on anybody. We have to grow in the understanding and grow in the truth. But we have to be willing to take a second look and see if what we believe is so. And if it's not, it's not that you're changing because of me or because of somebody else. My thing is, the word doesn't line up with us. We line up with the word. And I've said that many times before. So as we line up with the word and we find something to be so in the Bible, we have to make the adjustments and hold fast to the profession of our faith without wavering. So I just wanted to bring out understanding on Psalms 81, and I pray that somebody gets an understanding from it. And we just have to continue to search the scriptures and go through the scriptures and see if it's so. And I just wanted to bring out the understanding on that. Ak, you got something you want to say?
No, not at this time, Mark. You good.
All right. So at that time, we're going to say Shalom.
Shalom, Israel.
Shalom, shalom.